Hi, everyone. I'm an addict. My name is Roseanne. Roseanne? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Thanks. Okay. Anyway, thank you so much for inviting me and having me here tonight to share my experience, strength, and hope. I do want to say that this is one of my most favorite meetings. And it is a meeting that really helped me stay balanced through there's something popping up on my screen. I don't know what that is. Okay, this is one of the meetings that through the pandemic really helped me keep a balance in my life and my recovery. And I love this meeting. And I'll tell you some of the reasons I love this meeting is because there's newcomers here. And listen, my prayer tonight was I asked my higher power to please help me speak from my heart and not my head. And I asked God to help me to be God-centered, not self-centered. And I asked God to please help me touch the heart of that addict and that newcomer tonight that needs to hear a message of Narcotics Anonymous so that they can stay clean one more day and they don't have to go out there and die. And that's my prayer. And I love this meeting because there are so many newcomers. And anybody that knows me knows that I really speak to the newcomer. And hold on a second. And I think it's because I really remember what it was like when I got here. Or maybe I remember what it was like when I got here because I do speak to the newcomer, and that's your gift to me. But I love you, and the reason I love this meeting is because the newcomers here count days. And a lot of meetings, I would say the majority. Now, I haven't been to every meeting, but I have been to a lot. And most of the meetings that I go to, and they're wonderful, it's wonderful, but we give out key tags for, welcome key tag 30, 60, 90 days, 6 months. And here you'll do 31 days, like Adil tonight, 3 years, and I think it's 1 day or 2 days. But so we count days, and that's what we do in Narcotics Anonymous. That's really what's happening. We're counting days. And for you newcomers that say, oh, I only have 7 days clean, or I only have 30 days clean. The next time you tell yourself that, also tell yourself, how many years did it take for you to get that 1 day clean? Because it took me years and years and years to get, clean this time. So anyway, I wanted to share that, how much I love this meeting, and I love the members and everybody that comes. It's just a meeting so filled with love. And I do want to share that that the reading today, I think it was Spiritual Principle a Day, was the principle was hope. So I hope and I pray that what I share tonight, that at least one person will hear a message, because the messages that I share are going to be the experiences that I've had in Narcotics Anonymous, not a paragraph out of the book or something I heard somebody else say. They're going to actually be experiences that I received. And those experiences are gifts and blessings in my life today. So when I got here, I was 42 years old. I'd been in and out of NA for years. I had been in and out of rehabs for so many years. And when I got here this time, I just got, at another rehab. And I wasn't coming in because I thought, oh, this time I'll get it for sure. I just got here. Like I ended up, and my higher power was saving my life all these times that I came into rehab and into NA. And And I share a couple of things that time that later I realized were gifts and blessings in my life. And everything I share today that is my experience and things I've received, gifts and evidence in my life. I never knew when it was happening to me, what was happening for me. Years later, I could look back and I could see what was happening at the time. So I say to you newcomers, if you're here, you are here, and you're thinking, oh, this doesn't work, it's not working for me, I'm going to go back out and it doesn't work, I can't get it, my friends are getting better, everybody's getting cars and jobs, and nothing's happening for me. Let me share with you my experience. If you're clean today, it's working. Something is working for you. You may not realize it today because you're probably in a lot of pain and a lot of fear, and you don't have any hope yet, or your faith has just died, and you're just here and nothing seems to be happening. Trust me, newcomer, it's happening. Because if you're here today and you're clean, you're displaying courage. Takes courage for a newcomer to come into Narcotics Anonymous. You're practicing blind faith. It takes blind faith to show up, and you're demonstrating willingness. You're already demonstrating principles. And what I learned in Narcotics Anonymous is that I needed to work the steps. Now, I didn't know why I was working the steps when I was working the steps. I just knew that people said, work the steps or die. And when I came back this time, I want to tell you a couple of things. One, this guy said to me, Roseanne, do you know what spirituality is? And I looked at him and, I wanted to give him the perfect answer. And like, I knew it all. And, I went on this trip. I'm telling about all different religions. And he said, Roseanne, stop. He said, spirituality is living another way of life. It's being a kind, loving person. It's being, instead of a hateful person and a mean person, it's about giving instead of taking. It's being loving to others instead of hateful. And just for a second, I heard that. And I thought, just for a second, oh, I can do that. That sounds good. I can do that. And then it left me until much later. But that was the first message I heard. That was the first awakening of my spirit. I want to say that when I got here, I was a hope to die dope fiend. I said already, I was 42 years old. I came off the streets. I lived in the hood for 6 years. I lived on the streets of the hood for a year and a half. And every day I got beat up and I got raped. And I did things that I didn't want to do. I wasn't that person, but the disease of addiction took over and I became this animal, and I was reduced to animal level, and our basic text talks about that. So this time I did something different. I did something I had never done. I got a sponsor. I got a sponsor this time, and I started working steps, even though I knew this was not going to work for me because I was a loser. It never worked before. I was a loser. And I started being of service. I started cleaning ashtrays. And none of this was on my own. I was just following the sponsor's direction. And at 30 days clean, for some reason, I wanted to live more than I wanted to die. So things got real serious for me. And I heard that this was a life and death program. And it was life and death when I got here. And guess what, guys? It's still life and death. If I don't do the things that I need to do and the things that Narcotics Anonymous taught me to live my life, I'm going to go back out. I'm going to use and I'm going to die. I'm like, no, I'm the same as all of you. We're all the same. I'm just one fixed pill drink, whatever, away from my next one. And so I got this sponsor. And I want to talk a little bit about the first 3 steps. And there's so much I want to talk about because I've received so many blessings and so many gifts, but I know I just don't have enough time. And those that kind of do this meeting, most of them know that I love to talk and I usually run over. So please remind me of the time, and I will respect that. But the first, second, and third step, when I was doing it, I was just following my sponsor's direction. Whatever she told me to do, I do. Whatever she told me to write, I would write. And I still did not think this was going to work for me. I wasn't feeling any better. I was feeling miserable. Everything was so painful because I didn't have the drugs to push everything down, and everything just started coming in front of me. All the years that I pushed those feelings down started coming back. And all the behavior I did start coming back. So when I got here, I hated myself. I hated myself. And I thought, especially my sponsor, if she knew what I really did in life and she really knew who I was, she would never sponsor me. And so the first step for me, looking back at it now, like when I was writing and reading and whatever, what I needed to know in the first step and what I eventually internalized in the first step is that I am a very, very, very sick person, very sick. And I have a disease that is deadly. And if I don't work this way of life, this program, I'm going to go back out and I'm going to die. I don't even think I'd be lucky enough to use and come back. And so that's what I learned all about the first step. When I started doing the second step, and they talked about faith and a higher power and insanity and being restored. And I had no idea what anybody was talking about. I think when I got here, I really used one too many. And I really believe God zapped me stupid, which was good, which was a good thing because, I don't know why my picture doesn't come up. I don't know. I'm up there somewhere. Anyway, whatever. Can't undo it. So the second step, I had no idea what the second step was all about. I believed in God. But I believe that when I was born, that I got 50 chances at life. And I used up all those chances. So I didn't expect anything. I just was hoping that I could stay clean. And my very, very first prayer was, God, please, if you're there, help me to stay clean till midnight. Because I was the type of addict in a minute. When I'd be in rehabs, in a minute, I would jump out the window, I'd escape, and I'd go back to the connection. And I would wonder how I got there. So the second step was really confusing for me the first time. Today, of course, I see it differently. I see the second step as looking for evidence in life. Look for evidence during this meeting tonight. And that evidence will show that there's a power working in our life. I mean, look at all the people today that are clean today. Some that it took years and years and years to get clean. Some that they've been here for years and years and years. To me, that's evidence of a power working. And we get to the third step and, I'm turning my will and my life over to this power. And I got down on my knees with my sponsor. I wrote a third step prayer and I had no idea. What I was doing. I didn't know what life I was turning over. I didn't know who I was turning over to, but I just followed my sponsor's direction. And the message that I'm trying to portray is that even though I did not believe this was working, it was working. Because all the other times I got here, I'd be here 30 days or 60 days. And if anything wasn't shaking or changing for me, I would split. And I would say, NA doesn't work for me. But I never got the message that I've never heard it, that you have to get a sponsor and you have to work steps. And So, so things started happening for me. I mean, I put one foot in front of the other. I did not use no matter what. Another thing I want to share is about listening. I've been hearing about listening so much lately in meetings. And I remember I had maybe 60 days clean, and my sponsor said, Roseanne, what did you hear at the meeting last night? And I said, I don't know. And I'm thinking, was I supposed to hear something? So I said, I don't know. I didn't hear anything. And she said, Roseanne, you better listen when you go to meetings so you can hear the message of Narcotics Anonymous. Because if you don't, you're going to go back out and you're going to die, because you don't know when someone is going to need to hear the message, or you're going to need to hear the message that someone shares. And she gave me an assignment. I had to go to the next meeting, sit in the front row, look at the speaker, and say a prayer. And the prayer was, please, dear higher power, help me to hear the message of Narcotics Anonymous. Because if I don't, I'm going to go back out and I'm going to die. Now, when I got to the meeting and I'm walking up the ramp, I saw some motorcycles outside. And when I walked in the room with my buddies from rehab, I went to the front row and I sat. And the guy at the podium was a biker. And he had leather vests and tattoos. And I thought to myself, oh, bikers don't stay clean. And I was getting ready to diss him. And I remembered I had to call my sponsor after the meeting and tell her what I heard. And this was the very, very first message I ever heard in Narcotics Anonymous. This biker dude said, if you don't ask your higher power in the morning to help you stay clean and thank your higher power at night, you're going to go back out, you're going to use, and you're going to die. And I knew he was talking to me. And I had never heard that before. And I was smart enough to know that it must have been said before. And I started to think, well, where was I at? And I remember that when I go to a meeting, and some of you may be able to identify with me, I'm sure at least one person will. I would go to a meeting and we'd start the beginning prayer. We'd all start the prayer to begin the meeting. And then the next thing I knew, we were circling up and we were saying the closing prayer. And I never knew what went on in between the meeting. And it's because I wasn't listening to the meeting. I was listening to my head. And it was telling me all kinds of things. You're not going to make it. What are you even doing here? You're phony. How do you know it's real this time? You might as well go back out. And this is what I was listening to all that time. So I started to listen. And I found out throughout the years that I would go to a meeting and I'd be really messed up. And I'd go to the meeting. I wouldn't even speak. I wouldn't tell anybody what was going on with me. And somebody would share and they would say exactly what I needed to hear. And so I started to see that was evidence. I started to see that a higher power was working in my life and that he's going to speak through you. And he's not selective. He's going to speak through all of you. So you're all my messengers, and you might hear something tonight and it might click. It might click inside and you might say, oh, it might be something that you're hearing for the first time or that, you need to hear tonight. You didn't know you need to hear it. But I can tell you, I believe that that's a higher power working in your life because I don't know what you need to hear tonight. I have no idea. I'm just showing up and carrying a message. I'm just the messenger tonight. So I don't know what you need to hear. But if you hear something tonight and it clicks, I believe that your higher power is working in your life tonight. And so listening to me is so important, even now, years later. I mean, it might even be more important now because my head gets busy, but I know the difference. The other thing I want to share is about the disease of addiction. And, when I got into my fourth step, that was a step the first, second, and third step to me are the foundations of this program. And as I was doing the steps without even knowing it, I was learning the principles of this program. There's principles in our steps. And those spiritual principles show us how to live. So I don't carry my book with me and show everybody what the steps are and talk about it and all that. I live this way of life. from the spiritual principles I've learned. And so I'm probably almost time. And I just want to share a couple of things. One is that that when I got here, I hated myself, guys. I hated myself. And this is what I believe Narcotics Anonymous is all about, for me anyway. From my experience, this is what I believe. I believe when I was born a beautiful, perfect, loving child of a higher power. And I was a good kid, and I loved life. And and when I was younger, I would jump up the street and I'd buy suckers at a grocery store, and I'd pass them out to the kids in the neighborhood. And I'd just be jumping and happy, and just kind of like I am right now, and just be happy. And one day I was doing that, and I was about, 12, 13, 14. And I got home. And I walked in the house and I said, "Hi, Mom." My mom was in the kitchen fixing dinner. And she turned and looked at me and she said, "What is wrong with you? Something is wrong with you. You're not like my other children." And the minute she said that, and I realized this, I've learned this through doing a lot of inventories. But at that moment, I believed that something was wrong with me. And I believed at that time, I don't know if an addict was born in me. I don't know if I was born an addict, whatever, but it started to manifest in my life. And shortly after that, I started to use, and I just became, like I said, reduced to animal level. I became a person I didn't even know. It was the drugs, and that was it. I had children. I abandoned them. I had a son 3 years old, a daughter 2. And I abandoned them for some dope. And I know that sounds cruel, and it is cruel. And the only way I can share about it is because I did a lot of work in that area, and the steps helped me with forgiveness. And I don't know, I just went blank. So I'm doing the steps. I believe that as I started doing the steps, I believe the steps helped me. They started to help me realize how sick I was, and that I had a disease, and how treacherous the disease is, and what it did to my life, and how I acted. And I was able to see my character defects, and they were ugly. They were ugly. And then I was blessed with seeing spiritual principles, that I didn't have to act on all those things. I could look at them and do something about them. I could start to live this life another way. And then I started living this life another way. I started learning the spiritual principles after I got to step 6 and 7. And I started to see the spiritual principles, and I started to apply them in my life. So I believe today, because of the work I did and the amends that I made, and the time I spend with my higher power in my 11th step, and when I take inventory in my 10th step, the things I do wrong, I try to correct them right away. If I'm mean to somebody, if I'm short with them, whatever, I try to apologize immediately. I want to clean that up and be kind and loving to that person. So today, I get to the 12th step, and I start carrying the message, and it's beautiful, and I start being kind and loving to everybody. So when I got here, and that guy told me about spirituality, that it was another way of living, another way of being, another way of acting, I have learned that. To me, everything in this program is spiritual. Because if there's something I need to learn and there's something negative, I believe that everything is either a blessing or a lesson. So I learned something from it. So today, when I wake up, and tonight when I go to bed, this is how I feel about Roseanne. I love me. I feel when I got here, I had a spirit, and it was dying. It was dying when I got here. There's a flicker of a flame left. And when I came into Narcotics Anonymous as a result of working the steps, I started realizing how sick I was, and something had happened in my life. And I started learning about the disease I had. And then I started learning another way of life. And that's how I live my life today. I believe Narcotics Anonymous gave me the life that I'm living today, the life that my higher power wanted for me all my life. But when I became addicted, my disease took over. I made a left instead of a right. And I believe that I'm that person today. I'm that person that was born a beautiful, perfect, loving child of God. Do I fail? Absolutely. I make mistakes all the time. You know, I'm human. I'm going to make mistakes. That's how I learn. And I had the disease of addiction that's out to get me. I want to share something else because I'm not getting any signal or anything. There's a line in our basic text, and it's on page 16 in almost all of our editions. And it says, I was critically ill, not hopelessly bad. And I always thought I was a bad person, but I was sick. I had the disease of addiction. And I ask you tonight, at some point, or this afternoon, this morning, to think of the last time the last time you were out there ripping around, and the people that you hurt and what you did and how you hurt others and how you hurt yourself. Think about it. Close your eyes and think about it. And then open your eyes and see where you're at today and ask yourself, would you do any of that today? And I can bet that your answer is no, because I know for myself, I would never have abandoned my kids. I would never have done the things that I did when I was out there, you know, but I did it because I had the disease of addiction, which doesn't give me a pass, but it gives me steps that I can work to amend a lot of that stuff. Do I have any more time?
Yes.
Yes, you do, Roseanne.
Okay, thank you. The other thing I want to share is when I did my fourth step, and I want to share about my higher power. And when I did my fourth step, I was scared. I was so fearful because there was so much stuff that I had done, and we didn't have the step working guide at the time. But my sponsor had me do writing. She was very creative and in having me write and different things, and she had me do. It was like an autobiography. She had me pick up the pen, say a prayer to my higher power to be thorough and honest, and start writing as far back as I could remember. So I wrote this inventory and I cried, and it was painful, and I hated myself. I hated myself for a long time, guys. I did a lot of work and I still thought this wasn't going to work. And I wrote about the time that I had abandoned my children, and that was so painful. I really thought I was going to use behind that. And then my wonderful, wonderful son, Russell, who I abandoned when he was 3 years old, he had committed suicide. And I had used behind that for years, but I knew, thank you. I guess I can't see, but anyway, so anyway, I did the inventory anyway. And after the I took my inventory to my sponsor, I did my fifth step, and nothing, no burning bush, no, pink cloud, or I just knew I did it and I felt accomplished. And, but I didn't feel any, bubbly stuff a month later, I was in a meeting. It was an 11-step meeting, and people were talking about a higher power and should they call their higher power him or she or God or higher power or what, So they were all talking, and I was just listening. My sponsor had me on a listening assignment for about 2.5 years, and I was listening, and I was listening to everything they said. And I thought, wow, I could really relate. I had all those questions myself. And then in that room, it got really quiet for me. And that there was a feeling that came over me. And I felt it was my higher power. And I've never questioned God since. And I believe that how that happened was because I wrote all that stuff on paper. I wrote it all on paper and got it all out there. And I believe that my understanding of my higher power was deep within me, but I had to get all that stuff out. And so I've never questioned God since. And my higher power and I are like BFFs. It's just been a wonderful, wonderful experience, you guys. I have 41 years clean. My clean date is 10/21/81. I'm 83 years old. I have white hair. Don't let the white hair fool you. I'm 83 years old. I have 41 years clean. I'm on oxygen 24/7, and I've been losing vision for about 8 or 9 years. So I can't even see anybody on screen. I see something being flashed, but I have no idea what it is. But I know you're telling me it's time. So I'm going to go. But newcomer, please stay. We need you and we love you. You're so important that we have a 12th step, and our 12th step tells us, predecessors and middle people and all that, tells us that we've been given so many gifts and so many blessings, but the deal in the 12th step is that we must give away and share what has freely been given to us. And you are the recipients of that. I'm here today, newcomer, because of you. Thank you, everybody.